10 years today, I think. Yeah. We won for Dog Bud and Love Potion. And Reef's actually got some Love Potion entering this year's cup in the sativa category. And it's actually some of the nicest Love Potion I've ever seen. So I think you might just be taking another cup home to Canada. So we're going to talk to you about feminized seeds today. We're not really going to go into, we don't want to start like a major debate about, the benefits or the pros and cons between true and forced females. We're just going to show you how to make them. So, it's come a long way in the last 10 years. Like, stress-induced hermaphrodism, we tried basically everything, I've been creating feminized seeds since like 2002, and so we basically, we've been through almost all the pitfalls, and when you sell as many feminized seeds as we do, you got to learn how to maximize their feminized seed crops, basically. So that's what we're going to share with you today, and it's come a long way.
You do have a successful reversal. A lot of people don't understand the difference between stress-induced hermaphrodism and ethylene inhibition. Right? There's two different responses that you get from plants. For years, people thought that induction of stress produced hermaphroditic flowers, and then using those hermaphroditic flowers to produce seeds was feminization. When in fact the primary difference between female and male plant is that the female produces ethylene. So with SGS, we've learned that inhibition of the ethylene uptake creates a plant that, while it's genetically female, will produce male pollen sacs. Well, not truly male, but by inhibiting the ethylene uptake, we're actually creating sexual genitalia, if you want, on a female plant. Again, the biggest struggle we had was in getting enough pollen in that process and extracting that pollen once we actually got it.
Yeah, that's right. So we can create, there's, like I said, stress-induced hermaphrodism, you're not going to create enough pollen to pollinate a proper female seed crop. Gibberellic acid never really worked for me.
It's a stress-induced hermaphrodism.
That's, again, stress-induced hermaphrodism. Then you've got, your colloidal silver solution.
Which, again, is an ethylene inhibitor. So you're going to get true female seeds from that response, but you won't get the volumes of pollen that are necessary for it to be commercially viable. And so even learning correctly extract that pollen, store the pollen, apply the pollen, it's something that's taken a lot of work to really uncover and understand.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years before, 12, 14 years now, and we're still getting her down. So we're going to share this process with you. So I guess I'll take it from the top here. Basically, what we do is we spray. We spray and we flip. So actually, what I'll do is I'll pass over to Charles here, and he'll tell you about the silver nitrate sodium thiosulfate solution that we use to reverse our female plants.
So we use a combination of silver nitrate and sodium thiosulfate, and there's various ratios that we've worked with, and basically we just want to make sure that the plant's got to a full saturation point. So we'll apply initially on the very first day that we initiate a 12 and 12 photo period. We create an SGS stock solution, and then we apply an active solution to the plant, and that inhibits the ethylene generally. Some strains will take 2 to 3 applications to actually fully inhibit, and when it's done properly, you actually will not, a trained eye will be able to tell that it was actually a female clone, but when it's done properly, every node, every flower is fully expressing male sexual characteristics. Although those flower pods are very, very tight and it's very difficult to on the majority of indicas in particular, to get any volume of pollen out. So what we've learned to do is to remove all the stalk from the plant. This is once we have our reverse flowers, we remove all the stalk and we put them in boxes with desiccant gel. We try to remove any excess stalk from the flower, and we desiccate it until it's almost a fine powder, and then we put it in a pollinator, like Mila's pollinator.
It's a tumbler, more or less.
A tumbler, and we tumble the dry flowers.
And that's how we extract the pollen.
We get lots of pollen. One of our associates recently did not remove all the stalk and learned the difficult way that if the male reverse flowers sweat, it becomes very, very difficult. And what I mean by sweat is that humidity comes from the center of the stalk. It becomes very difficult to extract that pollen out of the clusters.
And what the pollinator will do too is it essentially opens the flowers, because basically we're cutting the flowers off the plant, we're removing all stalks, we're throwing them in a pollinator, and we're putting a marble or a quarter or something in there too to kind of like bash it around a little bit. And that will open your female flowers. So from that point on, you're collecting your pollen.
Even a couple of coins or pennies or anything thrown in there will help to agitate the pollen through the screen, and you'll get fairly decent levels. It's really important to be sure that your plants are fully reversed, and that's why we follow up. It depends on the plant and the plant's response to the initial treatment, but we generally follow up between 3 and 5 days later with a second application of STS.
And that'll just actually like fill your pollen cluster, your pollen sacs a little bit more. Your male flowers, it basically just fills them up. The second spraying, about on day 4 of flowering, that's where you're gonna sort of fill up your flowers there.
Yeah.
I guess from
I'm assuming that you all know what stress-induced hermaphrodism is. There's been for years and years, people thought that they could interrupt light cycles and any kind of male pod that came out of a female plant would be a viable pollen source to produce female seeds, but in fact, that's why they used to say 99% female or 97% female.
It wasn't long ago that there were being books written about stress-induced hermaphrodism, where people would take indica plants that were 8-weekers and they take them to 12 weeks until these things just in the last gasp efforts of life started throwing out like a banana or two, right? And then you could be like a surgeon and you could get an X-Acto knife and like extract. Yeah, that's great if you want to create like 1 or 2 female seeds. Actually, it's not great at all, but you're never going to maximize.
And you're never
going to get 100% females that way.
Higher rates of hermaphrodism for sure. We run the research company I was working at in Canada. We run 800 of our fem seeds, and we've had no hermaphrodism. Again, what's so important is plant health from the very beginning, and understanding that the genetics that you're working with have a fair degree of stability. But once you understand to